What's up, Joe?
Living the dream, baby. What are you doing?
Got a life full of phone calls, dude.
I know, man. It's like I don't see how you get to them all with all the time in like Telegram and all and Twitter. I just don't see how you get through everything because
I don't.
I guess that's why I'm getting bumped all the time.
I don't have time.
I know the feeling, man. Total friggin' chaos. I know.
Um, what's going on, man? Tell me the news.
Inflation print came in okay from what I remember this morning.
I think
I think I saw 4. Was it 4% or something? I don't know. But it was lower, or it was regarded as something favorable, was my read.
Oh, this was yesterday. CPI for May came in softer than expected, rising 0.1% in May versus 0.4% in April.
What is today? Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
Yeah, okay. So basically the implication is that, the Fed goes on pause and doesn't do a hike in July. I think that's what everybody's inferring from this.
Right.
Let's sit and see what happens. Now, I mean, everything you and I have talked about this for, God, it seems like years at this point. But, it's sure looking like soft landing in the U.S., that's for sure. Obviously, other places are having trouble. Europe's parts of it in a recession right now. But, who knows? So, we'll see. But that's the implication. We don't know what's going to happen. We always talk everything, and, not just you and me, but I mean, everybody in the sphere, talks collectively about soft landings or recessions. And what I'm curious about is, since the Europeans, ECBs, I think they got another round of rate hikes still to come to kind of get closer to equalizing the risk-free rates so that, fiat deposits don't like skew to one country and overweight DXY or underweight it in regards to exports. And with them already being kind of in a recession already, from what I've heard or read in different sources, again, I don't know. It's actually, these are a bunch of sources. This is actually a lot of macro houses. But with that should hit a little bit harder. Maybe there's some, maybe they'll be stimulating funding first, other than the Chinese. But, I don't know. I think the U.S. looks okay, but maybe the stimulus comes from other places right now.
Yeah, I would agree.
I don't know. We're all guessing. You and I. Yeah. We're trying to read the tea leaves and make sense of it all, just like everybody else is. But we're trying to present coherent arguments. Just versus stating stuff in the aggregate, because that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
So what about you, man? What have you been seeing?
Well, I got some news loaded up.
Oh, cool.
Let me. I was just trying to load up a few more things before we get going here, but you know what? We can make it a short show if we have to, too. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. So, I think that a lot of the crypto sphere. I mean, I just see positive things happening aside from all the regulatory nonsense.
Sean said 12 weeks decouples from TradFi. Crypto Twitter turned from macro experts to legal experts.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. That is exactly it. I mean, everybody going through to me, I don't want to say it's a waste of time, because obviously it's not, because you have to see what's there and then decide what you're going to advocate for and advocate against. But these first drafts from both sides are always so, legal stuff is always so weighted toward advocating for the client that they just, throw everything in there to see what's going to stick. And then it inflames the other side a little bit and trying to find things. And in the end of the day, everybody, comes in pissed off, holds their breath for 10 seconds and cuts a deal at the conference table. So, to me, well, I think it's valuable. I like to look at output. Like I like your summaries, Brad, because, you look at 20 people's stuff and then you come in and, have 4 or 5 good nugs out of all of that raw content that we can actually do something off of. Yeah. So to me, that's valuable. But the fighting over, in crypto Twitter about paragraph 87, sentence 2, it just to me is like, I don't know. I like output. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. Totally get it, man. Totally get it. All right. Let's see. So Well, this is a good story. This hit yesterday, but I wanted to talk about it yesterday. But I just love this kind of shit. Some guy, hold on, let me share my screen here. Some lonely miner out there who had like some extreme odds of mining a block the other day on his Antminer S9 rig. It should take him 450 years on average to mine a block, mined a block and collected 6.175 Bitcoin, worth $160,000 or 200 times the price of his Antminer S9. So I love stories like this.
Yeah.
I love a guy who's sitting in the corner in his basement. He's got maybe 1 or 2 of these, 3 of these set up, and he's really just there securing the network, right? Being a part of the process, etc. But he's, he gets a nice little windfall from it.
Hell yeah.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's like winning the lottery. I don't really, I'm not the mining expert, of course, but I know that there's such a random that to happen. I mean, didn't you say earlier, or somebody said that, the odds of it happening is like 1 billion years or something like that, of somebody like that coming in on
years, it says, yeah.
450, I'm sorry. Okay.
But it's 450, just 1 billion. What difference does it fucking make?
Yeah, exactly. But to me, it's so cool because it gets the little person,
Yeah.
Like you said, it's the little gal, dude, whatever, with their S9, trying to contribute to be part of the community, probably go learn stuff, or it's somebody out in the middle of friggin', Botswana or something, it's like, it's something that, it's going to be huge impact.
Yep, exactly. Now, I love it. I love these stories. Niblet says an S9, he's really just heating his basement with that hash rate. Yeah. And so he's got a bonus. It's just, it's a feel good story. I love it. Absolutely love it. Joe, you posted an article in our group, Who Needs the Metaverse? Meet the people still living on Second Life. I've never even been in Second Life. Have you ever been in there?
No. I read the whole article this morning, and, we talk about it some because, Lewis's partner, Angela, she was general counsel for Second Life and had to run around and get all the money transmittal licenses at every state and all of that. But, it was good history to read because, the Linden dollar or whatever, I want to say 2005 or 6, they had marketplaces in there. Maybe it was 2003, where, people were coming in and trading currencies and trading goods and could off ramp fiat and do all kinds of things like that.
Yeah.
The stuff where, it was before Bitcoin. Okay. Right. That's the interesting thing to me. And then you look at it, it's still there. And 20% of the users are, people with disabilities. There's very vibrant disability communities in there. Nice. People who can't function in real life with all their physical abilities, but there they can. So it's a really interesting thing, and it kind of makes you think about, with all the, basically, remember, it was Zuckerberg and those guys. It was Facebook. It was there when Facebook was still just, I think in the article they call it the ability to check out how hot the Harvard students were or something like that.
Right.
Which I'm going to say probably not. But the point is that this is like, what's that, like 02, 03 time frame?
20th anniversary.
And the guy who invented it, he was thinking of it before Snow Crash. The book was even out.
Nice.
And so when he was building this, that book, I guess, came out, or one of these metaverse books. And, his wife bought it and gave it to him. And she goes, hey, here's a book about that thing you've been building for the last few years.
That's awesome.
It's a fascinating article, and that's why I threw it out there. Just because,
the GDP of Second Life is $650 million.
Yeah, fucking
amazing.
That's I like the concept of GDP in these ecosystems. I know we use TVL and a lot of the platforms and stuff, but to kind of get some semblance of economic activity volume. But that's going on, and I've never been there. You've never been there. Most of us, a lot of people haven't even heard of it. It was kind of the thing that came out right before Roblox, if I remember right, or similarly close to Roblox. And And Roblox took a lot of the kids that were in Second Life away into those platforms. And of course, then all the, the first person games, first person shooter games and all those ecosystems. But I recommend everybody, let's share that link and I recommend everybody read it. It's in The Guardian, very thorough, definitely worth checking out.
Average cost of the items is $2 each, and there are $1.6 million. It's 1.6 million transactions each year. That's fascinating. Sean said the reason mining pools work is because revenue is predictable, but this solo mining is a lottery, and it's cool as fuck. I agree. I freaking love that. Niblet says, Second Life, S9s. Let's talk about AOL and push technology next. Yeah, what was the what was that?
The push one?
What was that news feed?
Pointcast. Yeah,
I fucking loved Pointcast, but I'm a
you know who's
junkie.
Some of the original developers at Pointcast. That's what turned into Adrenaline Group, which was the company I was in. The IT services one in DC around like the Millennium change, and they were all. Another guy was at Pointcast named Alden Hart, who was one of the founders of Cybercash, which basically was the first, became internet money, essentially. I mean, he was one of the first guys that enabled credit cards on there and stuff like that. So that was all going on in DC. So, when you kind of look back at that, and I remember the Pointcast did, it was like that push platform, it just couldn't get out because there was no bandwidth.
Yeah, nobody could handle it. Yeah.
And I remember correctly, we weren't doing Wi-Fi back then. We were still either doing dial-up or ISDN lines, which were like the 130K ones or something like that. It didn't go into full Wi-Fi or full, like, what was it? You also could do a direct cable plug-in, if I remember right, into some type of device, to some type of modem or something at that point. That's a long time ago. But I mean. And then all the fiber came around DC and everywhere else. Remember Global Crossing and Exodus, I think, and all those companies. And then everybody's like, what the hell happens to all this fiber? There's no capacity to use it. It's obviously pre-YouTube and pre-streaming and FaceTime and smartphones and all of that. Well, that got gobbled up pretty quick.
Right.
So, heady days, man.
Niblett says, Pointcast was pretty great. And he said, I was a telco in those days with multiple T1 connections to the office. Holy shit. You were like, you were a powerhouse if you had multiple T1s. That's fucking amazing.
I remember people putting those in the houses and they had to come out and dig up the yard. And it was like, a $13,000 installation for a T1 line coming in or something like that into where it wasn't already wired into a house. And I don't even know what the bandwidth was then still. I mean, it was probably like nothing,
Yeah. He said we ran armies of StarCraft players on the LAN after hours. I bet. You should have just become an esports guy. Uniswap Labs has released its plan for Uniswap version 4. Unfortunately, I haven't read the plan yet, but I will. But what's interesting about this is they are basically opening the development process up to the public. So they are essentially saying, we're going to put out this plan, but we want everyone to tell us what we should do. I don't know if this is an attempt to look more decentralized or not, but it's an interesting approach for them. And I think that in the DEX world, Uniswap is probably one of the leading targets, having had U.S. operations for the SEC. So maybe they're trying to build up a little bit of a wall. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Chuck pointed out that a T1 was 1.5 megabits.
Cool.
There you go. And Sean said, remember the Enron bandwidth marketplace? Makes me think of Vitalik. Oh my God, you never miss him. He never misses a beat.
God, that's Enron,
Vitalik,
man.
He's now comparing Vitalik to Enron.
God, Enron, man. That's a blast from the past.
Yes, it is.
I can remember we were working a project, the fund, like 99, 2000 time frame, maybe a little bit after that. But I was talking to a guy who was on the board of the World Bank, who had also been was a board member at Enron at one point. And I said, hey, because, he was teeing up meetings for me to all these groups. And I was like, let's go meet Enron. And he was like, he kind of said it in the way you would say something like this. He goes, I'm not saying anything negative here, but there's a lot of market chatter out there that there might not be any there. I'm like,
man.
weren't you on the board? He goes, yeah. I'm like, okay, I get it, and it was like a stay away word. But, I mean, that was the power. Remember they set up the power market, if I remember correctly, the energy markets where they were arbing like, they were doing something in the middle where they were jacking all the California energy rates up sky high, like buying and holding or somehow some play on that. Yeah. And then I think something else was going on then too in energy, because I remember reading afterwards that, somebody was also cornering, I think, the fuel oil market or the gasoline market, the same, whatever powers a lot of those power plants back then. I guess heating oil maybe, to try to shut them down to drive the price up. But it was all smoke and mirrors. It was like, FTX or something like that, over there with power supplies. Exactly. But, nothing. It was a mirage. And there you go. That's what took down Anderson. And that took down, or was it Accenture? Accenture or Anderson Consulting, one of those two got taken down in that one. And somebody else went down with it too. But, I mean, that was an accredited deal. That was his, public company. I mean, that was, and that was a shit show, just like any of these crypto blowups. Well, completely shit show. You can
absolutely trust public companies to tell the truth, Joe. What are you insinuating?
My favorite story of it all, though, is after who was the guy who was head of that? Was his last name Ray as well? I can't remember his name, but he goes in, he gets convicted, he dies of a heart attack in the plane on the way home. I'm like, wow, that's a nice coincidence. Because then all the charges get vacated and they can't take all the money from his wife. So I was like, that's a nice move. I mean, I guess that's what you do. You're staring down 20 years in jail and you're 65 or 70. Yeah. But I thought that was kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, smartest guys in the room, Sean says that movie is really good. Really?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's an awesome movie. I think that's on Netflix. If you didn't get your money off of Binance US yet, you need to. What the fuck is wrong with you? But they're going to essentially, Binance is saying US is saying they're going to have to halt all operations because of the asset freeze by the SEC. They are trying to get rejection of it in court, but I don't think that's got a chance in hell. So, get your shit out, people, before you're sitting waiting for 4 years to get it out. So, anyway. I mean,
all you gotta do is just move it in like Bitcoin form to Coinbase if you're in the US, if that's where you want to leave it in the central, or move it off to, another wallet. I mean, that's all you got to really do, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, then you can go to fiat from Coinbase if you want, because that ramp's not getting shut down. At least I don't think it is. But
by the way, Niblet said deregulation of energy markets opened the door for folks like Enron to manipulate the markets to basically steal from people. Yep, absolutely. And is this an advertisement? Can we charge for this in reverse? Bancambios. We will be fully compliant in the USA. All right, man. Send me
good luck, buddy. Send us a token allocation.
Send me the token allocation. I'll take a look. This is interesting, and we've kind of touched on this slightly before, but CoinDex makes a really good point in this opinion piece, Todd Phillips, that one of the concerns about the new bill, the McHenry-Thompson bill, is that it will give people who traditionally issue stocks a way around, or a way to arbitrage normal stock market IPO regulations, right? And so that's obviously probably going to be an argument against it that the others will make. But it's just an interesting point of view that, in fact, that's certainly something. How do they define that, right? How do you say, well, this would normally maybe be an IPO, but we're going to launch it as a token. How do you regulate that? How do you say, well, no, that would be an IPO. You're doing this wrong. Right. And the only way I can think of is if you do it on you say that only the token launches can be some limited basis initially. They must be, the business model must be on chain. I don't know how you go about that. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think you could just declare it a fundraising event, in the sense of, just like doing a Series A or something like that, but just selling tokens.
Right.
It seems like it could fit in one of those, some kind of a box like that, or like you said, the IPO box. But
But at the end of
then
the
it's
day, why don't we just do it that way?
friggin' idea, dude. I mean,
Right?
people try
isn't that the
to.
goal where we're headed?
Yeah, people
Bring
try
the
to, but then they get
yeah,
friggin' fined and stuff, for
yeah,
trying to play the rules. So
bring the disclosure regime over, get rid of all the fucking middlemen, put it on the goddamn chain, and then let people make their own decisions. Oh yeah, and don't keep a gateway of broker dealers who decide who gets to buy the IPO and who doesn't. So
yeah, that's the tricky part. We got to make sure it stays within that Jobs Act kind of stuff, where if you don't have to be accredited, where
right.
you can be, where everybody can get access to the deals, or some part of it, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is making sausage. So these are big issues people got to sort out, that understand the regulations better than I.
Yeah, let's get to the
But
tipping point.
yeah, you would think that we could figure out something here.
Yeah.
But have you seen any, just out of curiosity, have you seen any type of ICOs at all lately? I mean, I've been trying to think.
I saw a story about one the other day. I think they raised like 17 million. I have zero clue what it was, but I did see one, but I have not seen them like we used to.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them seem to be doing the raises from like exchanges and things like that, where they're more like institutional,
Right.
allocations, like going through the IPO process, where,
Right.
all the institutions buy chunks before it hits retail. But I just haven't seen that like 2017 behavior. I mean, I guess what was all like the ones that start in the like in the labs around chains and stuff, and then they keep, I can't even remember what those are called. Not incubators, but launch pads.
Yeah.
Launch pads. I mean, that's the closest thing I can think of in the last year or so where I've seen that type of activity. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Absolutely. Bankless getting a little bit of heat. They're coming out like trying to shred on Lido for being centralized and having too much concentration of ETH and blah, 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 blah. But I saw this thread that was getting a shit ton of views and retweets yesterday, basically calling out Bankless, because Bankless has evidently, Lido was a huge advertiser on Bankless for a very long time. and Bankless now also takes ad money from competitors of Lido. And it's like, yeah, that's a real slippery slope in this space. You're like taking money from one and then you take money from the other, and then suddenly the other one is a bad guy. It's very interesting, but anyway, they're being called out about that seeming hypocrisy, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I hate those kind of problems, man. Too many advertisers.
You know what? This one, I'll just put a link in the show notes, but it covers all the actions being taken by people like Coin Center, et cetera, what they're doing to try to stop the SEC. This is related, though, to something that's also important, another attack vector that has been coming after us, and that is redefining the word exchange under the SEC regulations so that DEXs fall under it, and basically cause any of them that happen to have people operating out of the United States to basically have to shut down or become, 5 middlemen and an exchange at the same time. So, so they're fighting hard to make sure and try to get comments in about the exchange definitions, et cetera, et cetera. Frankly, I don't have a lot of faith. The fucking board or whatever the fuck it's called at the SEC commission is going to fucking vote for this. And I doubt very seriously that Gary's going to make any changes to these fucking definitions. And, he's going to go after his last remaining bit, and we'll see if it works or not, but he's on a fucking power roll. This fella. Sean, real quick, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I was going to say, I don't really understand his rationale all the time. I mean, if I were the DEXs, unless I was a US based DEX, I just would ignore it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, it's like once, what happens, once you say, oh, okay, we're going to register, and then you go in there, they're going to dig through all your shit and say you've been doing security offerings for the last 5 years or selling securities without a license.
You can't win. Get the fuck out of the country.
So wait till like the legislation changes and just ride it out for a little while, because it'll be compliant soon. And maybe there's another registration. It's not an exchange. Yeah. It's something else. And there's different protocol rules there. But that's what we talk about all the time, that we got to get the nuance of the law right here, because, they're not thus far.
Sean clarified on the Binance US thing that if granted, the restraining order will not affect user coins. It will not affect user coins, but there will be no fiat off ramp, and you have to trust CZ. So, and Niblet said, "Is Lido going to rename
Lido list? I love it."
Good. Sean said, "Is not the X bit of DEX stand for exchange, decentralized exchange?" That is correct, Sean. Absolutely,
he is correct. But in the sense of
we're talking about the regulatory definition of what an exchange falls under, and that has
because most exchanges, in the context when we hear exchange, we think of centralized exchange with order books and all of that.
Yep.
Decentralized exchange to me is it's a different, obviously to everybody else too, it's a different type of exchange, so it deserves a slightly different definition. But it could easily be called DSwap or something like that, or DAM, decentralized automatic market makers. Anything like that. It's the DEX is kind of a misleading brand in my mind.
Yeah. I'm going to put a link to this. We don't have to talk about it too much here, but I like this story about Peter McCormick. I love what he's doing in Rail Bedford. I think it's a really fucking cool thing. I think it's a great way to,
Is that a football team?
Yes. So he's from this town of Bedford. And Peter has his What Bitcoin Did podcast. He made a lot of money, and he pulled together some money from some folks, and he bought the local football team there in his hometown. And he's building a stadium, and he's giving money to all the local soccer clubs, women and girls and boys, men and women, turn them into a true Bitcoin team. They're accepting Bitcoin. Their sponsors are Bitcoin companies. And his goal is to climb up from the bottom rung of the leagues, in soccer up to the top, right? And so he already won in the first season the championship, and so he's going to be moving up one. And I really like this story. I like the fact that the townspeople are enjoying it, and it's a good feel good story. And I like the way Peter does things, and so I encourage everybody to take a look at this. And I bought a Rail Bedford hoodie because I love it. It's cool. So they got the pirate flag as their logo, and it's a really their merch is really cool. It's fun to wear.
You know what I keep thinking of when you tell this story? Do you remember that movie? Because I had a girlfriend in college whose dad played in NHL, and he played a long time in the minor leagues. I think it's the American Hockey League up there. Like, I want to say Springfield, Mass, maybe. Right. Always had the most penalty fight minutes and all, fighting time and all of that. And him and Dave Schultz of the Phillies or the Flyers would go at it constantly in these brawls every game. But reminded me of that. And then I started thinking about Slapshot. Remember that movie with Paul Newman?
Yeah.
And I think of these like small town teams that are always trying to move up to the next league. And it's such a cool, fun sort of mission. It's like a quest.
Yeah.
When you get a bunch of people together on a team and you try to make it better and play better. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch how this plays out.
It's cool. It's a good story because it's his hometown. It's a boost to his hometown. It's a boost to Bitcoin. It makes people more aware of Bitcoin and in a place that probably had no awareness really of Bitcoin at any level. So I just love it. I think it's a great all around story.
Hey,
so I'm going to put a link in. Everybody can watch this documentary that Cointelegraph produced about him. So
speaking of that, did you see that Messi signed with with Miami? MLS soccer team.
I did.
Yeah, he passed on some I think he was the one who was going to go to Saudi Arabia for some $800 million, and he passed on it to come play for whatever the Miami team, Inter Miami or something like that.
Yeah.
Back. What the hell is his name? Who's the biggest? Beckham's team. Yeah, Beckham's team. So
yeah.
So it's interesting, but that's cool. European players are coming now to play MLS in their, I don't know, I'd say somewhat prime, but go ahead.
Warren Davidson, Republican. Sorry, Sean, an international guest, but it's a U.S. regulatory show today, partially.
Shit show.
Warren Davidson introduced legislation yesterday that restructures the SEC and would fire Gary Gensler. Obviously, it has no chance in hell in succeeding. But I did note in a tweet yesterday that despite the fact that it has no chance in succeeding, it's dead before it was, put on paper. It actually is a great PR stunt, right? Because now it puts into consciousness, fire Gary Gensler. It was trending on Twitter yesterday. It'll be in the local news. It'll make people think, wait, why are we firing Chair Gensler, blah, blah, blah. So I think from a PR perspective, it was a good stunt. Obviously, nobody should hold out any hope that this will see the light of fucking day. So, it'll maybe get passed to the House, but it's not getting to the Senate. So.
Hopefully he'll get some sweetheart deal with Algorand or something like that.
There you go.
And head off to the private sector. Or run Goldman's crypto practice.
Yeah. Yep. The heroes we didn't know we needed. The Ripple folks are excited about the Hinman docs, claiming Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO, is saying that the documents that the SEC had to fork over and fought to not fork over have lots of juicy shit in it. They've been releasing emails from it. I think they even put it in one of their filings. Some of the stuff that they'd already gotten, but evidently there is a chance that Ripple could beat the SEC, which opens the door for a lot of things relevant to definitions and
I think Ripple's going to win this. I think Ripple's going to win this one.
I hope so, dude.
Because they put so much money and time into it, which means they've aligned a lot of powerful people behind them, or it would have been shut down already.
Yeah.
I think they got a real good chance at winning in defining something here for us. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's just a matter of time, because these things they're not just going to lose and it's over. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just, because then you would appeal again. And you would just keep appealing on something else and something else until finally you just wear these fuckers down.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Did a little rant this morning about eToro. Look, if you're using eToro of your centralized exchange or your on-ramp, get the fuck off. Because, any exchange that caves under an SEC filing and starts removing coins is not in this game for real. Fuck.
Who else pulled coins? Somebody else pulled like Cardano and whatever those 13 ones that were
Matic, pulling Cardano, Matic and Algo and all that shit, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, the message of the day is fuck eToro. So everybody.
Where is eToro anyhow?
I thought they had US based, but they must.
Oh, it is US.
Okay. European. I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
So I'm not a big fan of Consensus, as we all know, but this is interesting. I had never seen this site. I guess it's supposed to be pronounced Galaxy. But in terms of kind of things like airdrops and that kind of thing, this is a site that actually kind of lets you find special offers for participating on chains and protocols. I haven't done anything here, so but I have seen a news source that I get news from every day showing about the things you can take action on to potentially earn airdrops or NFTs, etc. So you guys may want to check it out. It's galxe.com, galxe.com. This one happened to be that I landed on happened to be about Lenia, which is a Consensus project. But they have lots of campaigns on here that you can go in and potentially earn some stuff from, or maybe qualify for an airdrop later. There's ZK Bridge, whatever Space Ideas, Manta Network, Upside. I mean, there's just, a lot of projects, a great way to maybe potentially get some free money at some point.
Yeah. It's funny. I was watching someone speak at Consensus, and I can't remember who it was, but they were talking, they did very well and in the last couple of years. And they were talking about how after the 17-18 market run, that they were stuck with all these wallets of dead coins, basically, or dead tokens. And when Axie Infinity started up, you could go in there and trade those dead coins for, I guess, NFTs or whatever. On what is that? That's Ghost, GHST, I think, is a token. But you could go in with your tokens and they would give you NFTs. Well, these dead bags of tokens he turned in when Axie was at its peak, it was for like 270 million or something like that.
Wow.
So when you look at things like, I'm trying to segue to this, what you just talked about, but when you look at something like this and you think, okay, you know, and a lot of these projects, you know, again, you can get in and hopefully, you know, recycle old, like, you know, old NFTs, or, you know, I'm waiting for those projects where you can do things with the tokens, or, you know, get free stuff, because one of those, you know, could have run-ups like Axie did. Now, of course, you got to also remember the other word I hate in this space is HODL, because, I mean, the only thing that makes sense to me is like ETH or Bitcoin, but everything else, you got to take profits. So, you know, if you're up 270 million off a bag of dead shit coins, you know, you might want to be thinking about taking some profits. Okay.
Absolutely. Looks like a lot of big name projects use this platform for promotions.
And it's Galaxy.io.
GALXE.com. GALXE.com. So.
Okay.
I enjoyed this. So somebody has shipped a Web3 chess app on Lens Protocol, on-chain game results and ratings, peer-to-peer, on-chain prizes, and more. So it's kind of fun. It's I like seeing shit like this getting deployed on Lens. I think there's a lot of potential for Lens Protocol for a lot of apps to be shipped on it, and for people to play with it. I think the biggest hole at Lens Protocol right now is the onboarding process, but I do like the fact that somebody is creating these kinds of things on Lens and making use of it. So good to see. It's called Chess with Friends, FRENS.com, chesswithfriends.com. So if you're a chess player, check it out. It looks like it could be fun to play with other people on Lens Protocol, which is on Polygon. So unfortunately, Polygon's because they got Matic listed in the list. Polygon's feeling the heat right now from the SEC. But anyway, I encourage folks to check out Lens Protocol and check out the chess game. It looks like fun. What was this? Oh, some guy put together a zapper that tracks everything that Jump Trading does, which is probably the second or third largest VC in the space. Just interesting to see what their holdings are, things that they've moved on, what addresses they have, what NFTs they have. I'll put a link to it in the show notes, but I'll probably put this into a DeBank report along with some other ones that I have, and I'll try to share that one as well so people can play around, and if they want to follow trade the 262 tokens that Jump Trading has, they can do that. Joe, that's my whole list today, buddy. You want to call it an early one?
I think so. There was, let's do it. Like, I think there was something I was just trying to connect to when you were talking, and it's gone. But, you know, I'm looking at the galaxy.com site, and that looks really interesting. But, you know, again, you explore these things and you see that there is really interesting activity always still going on. We see regulatory, at least people taking the first steps towards figuring this shit out. And you see the markets, you know, I mean, not home crypto, but everything, you know, I mean, I think the S&P 500 is in bull market territory. I think it's up over 20% from its bear market low. So, you know, it just seems like I think we get overwhelmed with negativity in, you know, PTSD out in crypto world, crypto land. But, you know, I just, again, you know me, I'm always kind of optimistic, but, you know, I did see some, and I know this is for Sean, so I know he always discounts this, but and Shizzy doesn't. But it's the habiting thing.
Oh, Sean is right. Go ahead. Sorry, Sean just reminded me of something.
No, I was going to say Fred Thread on CoinList. Okay, I'll go fast then so you can do that.
No, you're good. You're good. Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to think through that habiting issue more. I know it doesn't, you know, as Sean said, it you know, the reward stuff or whatever, you know, he doesn't think it has an impact. And he showed data, I think, that supports that. But if the market believes it has an impact, then the market behaves the way the market behaves, individuals, regardless of whether what the data shows at that point. Right, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm kind of starting to like pay attention to that a little bit more, because I am seeing some people talking about it again. I didn't really hear much about it for like a year or so. And then all of a sudden, now I'm seeing it mentioned again, you know, May 24 or something like that. So I'd want to kind of think that through more too. I mean, there seems like there's some decent stuff piling up. And if the economy is going to be cranking here versus tanking, you know, that's usually a good thing for us.
Yep. So
go ahead.
My partner Fred at Material Indicators, the big brain member of the team, and there was a Bitcoin Magazine article that said Binance US will delist around 100 trading pairs and has paused over-the-counter trading. And Fred's response in a thread was, in the bull market, they're spreading liquidity by listing new pairs, which makes them easier to pump and attracts retail gamblers. And then in a bear market, you concentrate liquidity by delisting pairs, which attenuates dumps and prevents things from going to zero, which makes a lot of logical sense if you think about it, right? Like, if the exchanges are thinking this way, this does make a ton of sense, that when the bull market's heated up, you list as many pairs as you can. And when it's a bear market, you concentrate your liquidity so everything doesn't go to zero, which, makes a ton of sense. He said, the hype around alts or otherwise volatile assets is the very thing that attracts new capital. But as you can see, they don't survive the bear and eventually transfer their value into majors such as Bitcoin. He says, let me repeat that. The purpose of alts is to attract capital. After serving that purpose, they transfer the capital to majors such as Bitcoin as they get delisted during the bear and eventually die. Bull markets thrive on Ponzi's and only the strong survive the bear. And it's kind of hard for me to argue with this logic, right? Now, I think there are some strong survivals that can come out of this besides Bitcoin, but it's a really, for me, it's a really valid analysis. As soon as I read it in our Telegram group, I was like, oh yeah, that fucking hits, right? I mean, it's hard to argue with this model, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, just from just from watching what was going on with coins that are like trying to get exchange listings and trying to set up liquidity pools, and the discussions you have to think, or what you have to think about is, obviously not diluting, all of your reserves across all these platforms. Now that's multiple platforms. I think this is more about like having, say, pick a coin. Let's just say, shitcoin / BTC, shitcoin / ETH, shitcoin / BNB, shitcoin / USDT, USDC. That's what they're saying with all the pairs on one exchange, right? He's not saying across exchanges.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Okay. Yeah. So I think it makes total sense. I mean, I would be dumbing down and consolidating into bigger pools so you don't get beat out. But, but then going all into BTC when you sell off, I mean, if that's the model going in, it makes sense.
Yeah. It totally makes it. The logic here really, really hit home for me. Yeah.
I mean, we talk about it. There's about 280 too many chains out there, and there's about 800 too many dexes out there, and there's about a dozen too many exchanges out there. It's just, they're not all needed. Yeah. And
I guess time your project doesn't need a token.
No, that's the other thing too. Most of the time it doesn't. So if you're, going on to these exchanges, they all market stuff in different ways to try to generate positive attention to the project, token, coin, whatever, so that, hopefully the market rewards it, and doesn't penalize it. And they do different things to make that happen. But, it is a lot of chicanery, man. It's like, Absolutely. A lot of manipulation and stuff. I just kind of learned all that in the last day or so. But, how they do it to generate returns and things like that. And, what they do with tokens. But, it just doesn't make sense to have that many.
Yep. Totally agree. Well, it's interesting. So thank you, Fred, for that great analysis. Thank you, Sean, for reminding me. Sean said is an interesting view because basically it says that Maxi should support shitcoins because that process is actually what onboards them to BTC. Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? That's a very good point.
As the shitcoins get delisted and people don't have anywhere to go, what do? They dump back into Bitcoin. So that's very interesting. Or stable.
Yeah, I was going to say, Brad, do you go into Bitcoin these days? I mean, I kind of go into stables myself.
I go into stables when things get hairy and ugly and scary, but I am dabbling back and forth with the bots in Bitcoin. So there's some there. Just I don't put the whole thing in anything that I think has based on everything that Sean and Fred and everybody else says. I'm still waiting for
leg down.
10,000. 10,000.
Yeah, I got my limit orders in. So
there you go.
I'm in the same boat. So I kind of do the same thing. I just think I believe these guys. And if it doesn't take that leg down, then it just takes off going up. Who cares? Everybody makes money. But if it does, that's why I'm not rotating into Bitcoin right now. One, because not against Bitcoin or anything like that. It's just I believe that that's going to happen. So it doesn't make sense. It's like, why, like you're going to bet a football game and there's points on it. It's like, oh no, I don't need the points. I'll take it straight up. It's like, why would you do that? He's like, give me the points, so you set up your limits and wait and be patient.
Absolutely.
But yeah, very interesting.
Oh yeah. Sean says, ha ha ha. When does not matter. That's a conversation we should have for Joe one day. He's got, he wants to talk about, the whole idea of timing and not timing, etc. So,
well, he does it continuously. So he plays it. He does those 6-month TWAPs or whatever. So to me, that really takes the stress out of entry and exit right there. Yeah. Because it's not a momentous single event. It's a process. Right. So I agree with you on that. But right now, for me, well, I'm trying to catch the knife, I guess, is what we're talking about here. So, I learned my lesson and take it in the head, but we'll see.
Niblet says there's talk of disinflation, which could trigger rate cuts by fall, which might be a catalyst for bulls. Well, we'll hopefully see whether that comes out that way. Who knows?
That would be interesting too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, dude. I'm out of here.
All right, bro. Good show. Good talk.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Bancambios, for shilling. Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate you being here. Love all of you guys. We will see everyone Thursday with Sean on board. And thank you. If you're listening on Apple or podcast or Spotify, please rate and review us. It helps boost our rating. Same on YouTube. Make sure you give us the thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed and turn on alerts. If you haven't yet, you should join our Telegram group, t.me/mission DeFi, t.me/mission DeFi. When you join, there will be a little CAPTCHA. You have to click a button. You'll get a welcome message, and it'll be right at the bottom of that welcome message. So if you're having trouble, be sure you look for that little I am a human button underneath the welcome message. I hope everyone has a lovely, lovely afternoon, Joe. I hope you have a great day. Talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, you too, buddy. And thanks, everyone. We'll see you on Thursday. Yep. Have a great day.